Welcome everyone, hope you're all doing well. Today's subreddit is r/EntitledParents, where an entitled Karen at the ER messes with a kid with cancer and ends up getting arrested for it. Let's jump in, and feel free to hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Insane restaurant parent. I worked for close to 15 years at a small restaurant in my hometown. Mostly I did takeout and rang customers out. We are cash only, and most people in the area know that. This took place in 2013. So one day, a woman approaches the counter. She tells me, rather rudely, that she's paying and throws the receipt at me. I bring up her bill and tell her the amount, and she hands me a Visa. I tell her cash only, and she stands there with the Visa. I tell her again that we're cash only, and she says, "Oh no, honey, you can take the cards. I come here every week and always pay with the card." I tell her again that we are cash only, and she huffs and puffs, then digs through her wallet and hands me an American Express. I tell her again that we are cash only, and again, she tells me she's there all the time and always pays with cards. I tell her she has us mixed up and that there's an ATM in the lobby if she needs cash. The woman's face goes into this shocked expression and she says to me, "An ATM? Are you insinuating that I need money and that I'm poor?" She storms out into the lobby to use the ATM after digging through her wallet to find cash. She stands there at the ATM for a few minutes, then comes back in telling me that she's not using it because it's a sketchy ATM, because it's a bank she's never heard of, and it charges $3 for non-members. She then asks where a certain bank was in our area. It was a fairly large bank, but our town didn't have a branch, and I didn't know where there was a location around us. I tell her this, and she tells me that I'm useless as an employee, and she'll recommend to my boss that he fire me. I tell her there's an ATM for Bank of America, not the bank she asked for, 5 minutes down the street. She thanks me and starts looking something up on her phone for a few minutes. She comes back up to the counter and tells me she's driving to the ATM. I tell her I need collateral from her, and she goes crazy, telling me I'm accusing her of being a thief. She then says that she'll leave her 6-year-old daughter there as collateral. I tell her okay, thinking she's running to the ATM 5 minutes down the road. The girl takes a seat over in the corner at the front of the restaurant where we have a few chairs and a bench, and I go back to helping customers. I totally forget about her until like an hour or so later when I realize she's still there. I'm a little worried because the Bank of America ATM is only 5 minutes away, but then I remember the mom asked about another bank. I quickly do a location search for it, and the nearest branch is 45 minutes away. So I'm assuming that's where the mom went to. I keep checking up on the girl, making sure she's okay and if she needs anything. I ask her if she knows her mom's phone number so I can call to check on her to see how much longer. She gives me her mom's number and I call. Mom picks up after a few rings, and I introduce myself and ask her how long she'll be. She tells me she went to the ATM, and while she was out, she decided to run a few other errands while her daughter wasn't with her, and that she appreciates us watching her daughter. I'm infuriated. I tell her we're not a babysitting service and I'm not watching her as I have a job to do. She starts going ballistic, telling me that something could have happened with her daughter while she was in my care. I tell her that she has 10 minutes to get here or I'm calling the police. She showed up 9 minutes later, talking on the phone about how her babysitter bailed on her while she was in the middle of running errands, threw the money on the counter, grabbed her daughter, and stormed out. That poor child. Her mom making her sit there in a restaurant for over an hour like that, while the entitled mom just acts like the restaurant is inconveniencing her for only accepting cash. If it really was such a pain and an inconvenience for her, she wouldn't have gone and ran errands trying to pawn off her child to the restaurant to babysit her. I really feel bad for that kid. Entitled mother messes up big at the ER. First off, I was just a bystander watching this unfold in front of me. As I was sitting in the waiting room at the ER, there was a young girl, about 10 by her looks. She was also totally bald and didn't hide it. Overhearing her mom, I came to find out she has cancer and was getting ready for her chemo treatment. At this hospital, they have service dogs meant to calm kids down when they get scared. The dog they let her take care of was pretty small. I had no idea what breed, sorry. She was on the gurney, waiting her turn, happily petting the dog. This is when entitled mom joins the story. She walks right up to the counter with her little girl who was crying. The entitled mom said she fell off the swing set and got a black eye. She was told to take a seat and wait until called. As she is waiting to sit down, her daughter spots the dog and squeals that she wants to pet the puppy. The young girl's mother tried to explain that the dog was a special dog and her daughter was taking care of him, and he was taking care of her, and to please not touch the dog. The entitled mom did not like this and started at a very high volume where everyone could hear her. "My baby wants to pet the mutt. She is going to pet the mutt." And put her hands on her hips like she'd already won the fight. The entitled mom tried to reach over the young girl's mother to take the dog, but when she did, she pulled the IV out of this girl's arm and knocked her mother over directly on her. Not sure about the dog, but it yelped loud, so I assume she did. At this hospital, they don't just have security, but there is a police officer stationed there as well. Both the security and the cop grabbed the entitled mom and brought her down to the floor hard. She landed face first on the big rubber mats they have at the doors. In seconds, she was cuffed and hauled into the security room, the whole time screaming about all the things an angry mother does. Her daughter was taken to a quiet room with a nice nurse, while other nurses worked on getting the poor young girl hooked back up to everything. The poor little dog was so scared he was useless to the girl. Luckily, they have more than one dog on site at all times. This time they brought her a German Shepherd. After my appointment, I was on my way out and I saw one of the security guys and asked him how things ended up since I was seeing the doctor. He laughed and said she got trespassed from the hospital and its property, resisting arrest, assault on the cop, I guess she scratched his face enough to make it bleed, interfering with the service animal while it is on duty, assault on the young girl and her mother. If there was more, I can't remember. I just wish I was there when they took her out screaming and kicking. It is just beyond me what must go through some of these parents' heads. How can she see an obviously sick child hooked up to an IV petting a dog and think, yeah, it's my kid's turn to pet the dog, let alone physically trying to take the dog from them? Is it really too much to think that she would just be a rational parent and tell her kid, no honey, I'm sorry, you can't pet that dog, it's there for that sick child? But I guess that's just asking way too much out of some of these parents. Entitled mom refuses to stop her child from causing a scene during a movie, gets banned from the theater. I have a number of entitled parents stories from my time working in various customer service roles. Here's one of my earliest. I'll post some of the others at some point. Many years ago, I worked as an usher in a movie theater. We often got complaints about people and kids being noisy during the movies, and as the usher, it was my job to make them stop or kick them out if they don't. During a relatively slow afternoon, a customer comes out of his theater to complain about a kid being disruptive in his rated R movie. There are only about 10 people in there, and immediately I spot a small child, approximately 4 or 5, running up and down the stairs, back and forth in the rows, making noises, bumping into people. It was unreal. The guy who complained points out the mother for me, so I go right up to her and tell her that she needs to keep her child from running around and causing a disturbance, or I'll have to ask them to leave. She doesn't even look at or acknowledge me. Her kid continues to run rampant. She does nothing. I try again, talking louder and firmer. She finally looks at me and snaps. I bought my ticket. I'm going to watch my movie. I don't have to do anything. I call in the manager. He tries the same thing. She begins shouting at him. Back off, racist mother effers. I'm not going to say anything to him. I don't have to. He can do whatever he wants, and I'm not going anywhere. I paid for my ticket. All the while, the movie is still playing and her child is still running around like a little a-hole. It escalates far beyond anything I'd seen up to that point. Given that a theater is private property and that she is no longer welcome due to her atrocious behavior, she is now trespassing and the police are called in. For liability purposes, employees were not allowed to grab customers and drag them out. Given the time of day, we didn't have officers on hand like we did in the evenings, so they had to drive there and didn't make it until right as the movie was ending. The manager and officers waited by the door of the theater, stopping the woman and her son, while another manager stood nearby and gave everyone else a free movie pass. The woman continued to make a scene and throw a fit, shouting, stomping her feet, flailing her arms, calling everyone racist, specifically pointing to or calling out me, the manager, everyone else in the theater, and the cops, essentially everyone who was not the same race as her that was within the range of her vision, and claiming that because she bought her ticket, she could do what she wanted and we weren't allowed to do anything about it, and we weren't allowed to tell her to keep her son quiet. Her tantrum supposedly lasted for quite a while, including her swatting at the officers, and they tried to calm her down, but I had to leave to tend to my other duties, so I didn't see the end of it. As I was later told, she was forcibly removed by police, and she refused to leave and kept throwing a tantrum. She got banned from the theater permanently. A copy of her ID was made and a picture was taken, and they were put up at every ticket counter. Yeah, some people don't seem to realize that most businesses like restaurants, movie theaters, what have you, have the right to refuse service or kick someone out if they feel like they're misbehaving. But some people at these places seem to feel like it's their God-given right to be there because they paid for it. So that gives them a free pass to do or act however the hell they want. But in reality, it's really quite the opposite. Even though you paid for it, you still have to follow the rules of the business. I need a picture, you blank. This happened yesterday on Christmas Day, so we all went to our cousin's house for Christmas. He has a wife and an adorable little baby who gets thoroughly spoiled by everyone who meets him. Over the past couple of years, he's recently done very well in his job and has therefore bought some very expensive things, including a flat in central London. He's also a car guy, as am I, and bought a few items that the two of us have always fantasized over. These include an Aston Martin DBS and a 1969 Ford Mustang. With COVID, etc., I hadn't seen my cousin in a long time, and in that time, he bought the Mustang. When we arrived, I immediately asked to see the Mustang and possibly even go for a drive in it. We did, and it was indistinguishable from heaven. The throaty growl, the downshifts, the meaty steering wheel. It looked like something hell spat back out. It was a bloody museum piece. The arrival of the entitled mom. Now, cousin bought a flat that came with its own underground parking spot. It wasn't exactly private in the sense only cousin had access, but it did have decent security measures that was only open to residents of the building. Whilst we idled back to our designated spot, we noticed a young teenager and her mother take an interest in the car. Cousin is a large show-off, so he revved the engine slightly as he stepped out. Entitled mom approached us with her phone out. Hey, sorry to bother you, but can my daughter take a picture with the car? Sure, just be careful not to lean on the bonnet or anything, said cousin. No, we meant entitled teen would be sitting in the car with the door open and holding the keys in her hand. I'm sorry, but it is of great personal importance to me. I can't let that happen, but I'm more than happy for you to take pictures as long as they are front on, replied cousin. Excuse me? It's not like we will drive off. Just give us the keys. You can watch from the side. As she said this, she made a motion to move towards the passenger door. This car is a bit of a dream come true for both me and cousin, so I wasn't gonna stand there silently. I moved to position myself in between her and the door. Young man, you will move right this instant. It's my right to take pictures whenever and wherever I want to, as I have property here. So does cousin. Please respect his wishes. You can still take a picture, just not sitting inside the car. By this point, there was a mini commotion caused, enough to draw the attention of the security guard. Ma'am, I will have to ask you to leave the premises or return to your residence, said security guard. Entitled mom lost it. She started screaming at me, the security guard, and my cousin. It's too long to include here, but it involved some choice words pertaining to immigrants. My family is British Indian. To spoiled children getting their way all the time and to the disrespect shown by the younger generation. In the end, another security guard came and helped the woman leave. I feel bad for the entitled teenager. She was just in the sidelines the entire time. I don't think she wanted to press the issue. Her mom did it for her. All of this became a funny Christmas story, and within the hour, I was back to playing with cousin's baby. And that was our /entitled parents. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, feel free to hit that like button. And if you're feeling extra generous, go ahead and subscribe so I can bring you more daily Reddit stories. Thanks for watching, peace and love, and I'll catch you next time.